Welcome back to the First, the Last, the Nerdom, the podcast where we explore the weird, the wonderful, and the endlessly nerdy, endlessly nerdy corners of pop culture. And this week, we're stepping back into our special series we like to call Binge Worthy. Here's how it works: we pick a TV show we're curious about, whether it's an old favorite like this week's, or something we've always meant to check out. We'll watch the first 3 episodes, and then we'll ask the big question: is it binge-worthy or not? And this time we're diving into a 1995 cult classic sci-fi adventure that opened the door to countless parallel realities. Sliders, starring Jerry O'Connell as Quinn Mallory, a young genius scientist scientist in training who accidentally discovers a way to slide between alternative Earths. Sliders is part road trip, part science experiment, and part survival story. Alongside Wade, Professor Arturo, and Rembrandt, the crying man Brown, Quinn finds himself leaping from one strange version of our world to the next, where history has gone sideways and danger is always just one portal jump away. At least for safety until they slide into the next one. From worlds ruled by technology to dystopias where the wrong side of history won, Sliders was ambitious, quirky, and sometimes a little wild. But did those first 3 episodes convince us that it's still a journey worth taking? So grab your timer, open up the vortex, and hope you don't land in the wrong San Francisco, because maybe his next leap will be the leap home. No, that's Quantum Leap. That's that's done. Anyway, we'll find out this week. This is something I picked out for Tom and I here on the First Lesson Nerdom for the binge walk. That was a really long intro. But before we do, real quick, I just want to pay the bills real quick. We're just going to do the 2 things here that we do. The website, FirstLastNerdom.com, as well as the our home base here on YouTube. And Tom, take it away for our socials.
All right. Yes, I'm on Reddit under FirstLastNerdom, so you might see me hanging around there. You may have came over from there. If you did, hello, Reddit users. And yeah, we just promote our stuff on subreddits that pertain to what we're talking about. But yeah, some will have us, some won't. But yeah, I'm also on X under the same name, FirstLastNerdom. Follow me there if you want to keep up with our latest stuff. I promote our latest videos or uploads, and also anything I'm kind of fascinated by in the nerd culture. I'll post in there. But yeah, and Mike, you're on the socials as well.
I am at. I'm also on X, and sometimes you'll catch a conversation or 2 between me and Tom, or a debate sometimes, once in a while. Who's better, Superman or Batman? No, I'm just kidding. ApeIt.Ink.
Howard the Duck
Right.
is the answer.
Yeah, and I would also say just go check out our webpage where we have that out there. You can, hopefully I'll be able to. I'm still testing the newsletter here, so maybe it'll take me another 4 years before I get up. I'll get up the blog part of our website. But all joking aside, Sliders, Fox was on Fox so many years ago. I think it ended up being like 5 seasons. 2 more years than it ever should have had. But if you're true blue and a faithful, you know that. But I would say I was so happy to see to us finally get to this one. I gotta. What was your verdict on the original Sliders? Were you a fan, or was it a little bit more obscure and not on your radar as far as it goes? I know I pull a little bit more of the sci-fi weight here, but you're not too far behind me. Although you're strong with the Force and the fantasy realm and horror for sure.
Yeah, more horror fantasy. But yeah, with sci-fi, I'm kind of hit or miss. It's kind of weird. I guess it kind of depends on my mood or my attitude at the time. Back this was 90s. Yeah, I was kind of wondering where, because obviously Sliders. If you were even if you weren't into sci-fi, I think Sliders was on your radar. You at least heard about it. You saw a commercial for it. If you had all watched Fox, but yeah, I couldn't remember if this was on Sci-Fi or where this was. What if it was on, another cable network or what. I didn't realize it was actually on Fox, but yeah, there's all these. It kind of makes sense because a lot of Fox's shows were sort of like filmed in Canada, like X-Files, and it kind of has that definite sci-fi 90s feel
Yep.
to it. Yeah, it was always on my radar. I knew about it, but it was one of those shows that looked kind of interesting, but I never watched. So yeah, thank you, Mike, for finally bringing me into the fold. But yeah, it's I was trying to think about the sci-fi shows that I did watch and the ones I didn't, and why I watched ones and why I didn't watch them. I think it was just like I said, my mood at the time, whether or not I caught an episode of it and whether or not it tickled my fancy. But yeah, I never saw an episode of Sliders. I'd seen, like I said, it was on my radar because you'd see advertisements. If you watch Fox, you saw commercials for this. But yeah, and it's not like I had anything against the actors either. I've always enjoyed Jerry O'Connell. Famously from Stand by Me, right? He was
Sure.
the fat kid from Stand by Me, and that was the big story back back in the '90s of the fat kid from Stand by Me. He lost all that weight, and now he's kind of this hunky guy,
Yep.
and but yeah, so he's in Sliders. Yeah, he always seemed like a nice guy for a lead for a TV series, obviously. So yeah, a lot of this hangs on his performance here. A lot of these early sci-fi shows couldn't rely on the huge special effects, so they really had to rely on story and the characters. But for story and character and the setup of the show, I'll circle it back to you, Mike, and let's talk about your experience with this and what this show is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, so this is
Hmm.
the Sliders show, and this is one of the perfect shows that I like to highlight. My three rule for t for the small screen for TV shows. If you can't get maximum satisfaction within the first three seasons of a show, there's something wrong. And this is more apropos nowadays to like have never ending newer shows that come out that are streaming and they're made for streaming only or whatever. Not everything is made equal. This took a minute to kind of to get its legs going. It didn't take too long before it found the chemistry there, and it just got better and better and better. And I remember seeing this. Here's the thing, though. I remember seeing this, and I didn't hate it. I would watch it when it was on, but I never really got into it like I did other '90s, like the X Files and some other ones like that. And this definitely does feel from the '90s for sure. It has similar ish cuts, how there's just a certain kind of feel that a '90s sci-fi show has.
Yeah, kind of filmed on video,
Yeah, yes,
kind
yeah,
of feel
yeah,
that look of the '90s shows.
yeah. And so I kind of panned this when it first came out. Like I wasn't
Hmm.
in depth with it as I was day one, as I wanted to be. But over time, um, other contact with other nerds, Josh, you know who you are out there. You're one of the big guys that got me to kind of rewatch this when we were working together. Josh, you know who that is. Uh, and
Yeah.
he mentioned it was one of his favorites. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll have to try this out again. So I did, and I remember being like, this is actually really good. And why the hell didn't I do it? I didn't care for the last two seasons, but for me it worked for the most part. I think really, if you stop at year one, you're probably going to be really good and happy. If you stop at season two, you're really going to be happy. And I think if you stop there, you're probably going to be the happiest. But if you do take it to three, unless you're a sci-fi nerd or whatever, it morphs into a completely different show over time, which is the sad part. But it's still, I think,
Yeah, that's
for any generic, beyond generic, kind of sci-fi show. I think the first three seasons of this could easily held its own. It's in its own little weird, little quirky way, in my opinion. But I took a look at it again based on that recommendation from our friend, like from so many years ago. That was a really long time ago, and it's been one of those that I like to revisit occasionally. It's just a fun
Yeah.
watch. But what are your thoughts, Tom, as you got to see it
Yeah, anytime we talked about doing a TV show kind of show, this was always on your forefront mind of was something to cover. So yeah, I was looking forward to this because especially I like to be exposed to what other people love about their favorite kind of horror or favorite things. I'm always kind of fascinated by what kind of tickles their fancy to get to know that person a little bit more. So yeah, like I said, it's definitely got that 90s vibe, and it's kind of interesting to hear you kind of track the history of the show through the seasons, and it's kind of very reminiscent of what a show was like in the 90s. Yeah, obviously, I think our audience kind of skews older, but if a younger person's watching this, it's not like today with the streaming shows. They barely maybe make it to season 3, 4, 5. They it's unique when a show gets a lot of years under its belt, and
right.
with the shows today, there's kind of a quote unquote showrunner, and they usually have a projected life to the show. Oh, show is only going to go three series seasons and it's going to cover this story. And they have a beginning, middle, and an end to the story. Whereas these shows were kind of geared towards a week by week story, and they didn't really have a projected end. The ultimate goal of the series was just to make money. So get past the magic number. I think it was of 100 episodes. You need to get to 100 episodes so it could go into syndication, and then that could be run in what we call the reruns back in the day, indefinitely, and that was just kind of printing money at that point because
Absolutely.
there was no cost outside just running the show. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of shows kind of went past their prime, just to get that magic number of 100 or and beyond. Because if you went beyond that, you just had all that much more to kind of show in reruns. So yeah, that was the unfortunate thing about these kind of cool shows back in the day. Especially if they were the curse of a show was it being too successful and it ran past its prime, and you had all these seasons where they try to rework it, kind of try to prop up the legs of the show that kind of ran its course. And but yeah, so obviously I didn't watch the every season. I watched the pilot and then the next two episodes of it. The pilot was a 2 hour kind of premiere,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. Which
Um
is
and yeah.
also unusual. Well, maybe not unusual for its time, but that is at once upon a time. If you had a big intro, that's how these things would come
Mhm.
across once in a while. Like not all the time, but that was also because I noticed I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that the plot was so long. It was like a movie. I mean, really.
Yeah, the whole setup, yeah. Yeah, it like I said, there's not a huge amount of special effects. So yeah, it really kind of weighed on the actors and the story to kind of hold it together. And Jerry O'Connell's a very likable guy. He kind of he's playing a character, but you can kind of see maybe his personality kind of showing through on this. He he's sort of a maybe self-obsessed kind of person with his science or whatever. He's got this lab down in the basement. It's not steeped in reality. I mean, the whole kind of sci-fi lab downstairs is maybe a little broader than
Little,
more advanced
little
than
hand
what
wavy.
it
Yeah.
yeah.
Little hand wavy. Little.
Right, right.
Lots of blinking lights. Very classic
Mhm.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
techno babble too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you early on, and it does settle down. Like sometimes the dialogue is a little bit rushed. Unfortunately, the first 3 episodes you just don't get the full kind of quality gamut of this. That's probably not true until probably the very end, to the at least through you have to watch all of the first of season one, and then you see the finale of, or the the season or the series,
Mm-hmm.
or excuse me, the season finale, and then by that point all these characters kind of get a good cadence, and then the dialogue isn't so,
Yeah.
because it goes too fast in one parts and it slows down. No, no, no,
Right.
what are you doing? Slow down here. No, it's got to do it had some inconsistencies in the writing for them to kind of figure this thing out, what they did, but they did eventually, and it did work for the most part. But
Yeah.
at first it's like, are we doing Star Trek or MacGyver? Are we doing something like Star Trek in MacGyver?
Yeah.
Or kind of
Yeah,
sort of.
and I didn't watch Quantum Leap, but I kind of got those vibes
Right.
of that as well.
Sure.
Sort of a
That's true.
but yeah, so talk about the basic premise of the show. You got
Mhm.
Jerry O'Connell. What's the name of his character? I forget. I'm sure you're
Quinn Mallory.
Quentin. Yeah, yeah, Quentin. So he's been experimenting in the basement. His father's passed away. He has a warm, loving relationship with his mother. He's going to college. He's got a seems like he only goes to one class, one professor,
Right.
his science professor there. That he may be kind of um I don't know, has a good relationship with him, but he does know him. And then he also has a job at like a sort of a Best Buy type shop, maybe Circuit City kind of shop. And his coworker he's friends with, the female protagonist, and so he's working, but his obsession is what's in the basement. And he's not creating any zombie sheep, to kind of do a nod to our podcast we did this week, but no, he's working on this thing where slides into, does he know what he's working on at the time, that
No, he
he's
does.
sliding into the
Yeah,
multiverses.
he does. He does.
um
Yeah, he knows that I mean, the version that we get is a little bit like, maybe I think months away from discovering this thing. That's kind of the
mhm,
lore of the show. But
mhm,
he makes it separately. He just doesn't quite understand the full on the comprehension doesn't dawn on him until probably a good halfway through the plot, where we see him meet himself, and he's like, "You're
mhm,
gonna be cool, dude." Oh yeah. By the way, it's also kind of a little bit like, very very much like midway between Back to the Future and Rick and Morty.
mhm,
There's also kind
yeah,
of like that kind of dynamic with it. But yeah, he's a genius. This kid's he's a whatever, and then it kind of goes from there, and then like most horror films, there are rules, right? So there's no different
mhm,
here. There are some rules here that you kind of figure out over
mhm,
time, and
mhm,
you get, and really, I mean, the one thing is like it'll tackle different, it'll commentary on this or that, or it'll just be a wacky world or something, which is half the fun of
mhm,
showing up, of like, what the hell's going on with this,
mhm,
because it's like they could have a creature, instead of the creature feature of the week, they have, the predicament this week, that kind of thing, but
mhm,
it does work pretty
right.
well, for what they're doing. But they don't really bring in the heaviness of it until probably several more episodes in, to like where
Mhm,
it dawns on them, you're not going home. Like, everybody's a little bit too
right.
cheery, and nobody's like,
Uh-huh.
nobody has a realistic, like, oh my god, I'm
Mhm,
never going home. I mean, they kind of touch on it a little bit, but
mhm,
then they'll kind of shake the globe, they'll shake the snowmobile to like
mhm.
make it snow again, and like get things
Yeah.
going again, and then all of a sudden they're gotta, go
Yeah.
over here, go over there. But it doesn't stick too long, it gets hand wavy, and then if in doubt of answering a solid question, it goes on, although there are a
Yep.
little bit
Mhm,
of a wink and nod with a
mhm,
little bit of nerd techno babble in there as a wink to the audience, if you're
Yeah.
properly engaged. But it's just very interesting.
Yeah. And they're sliding. And I don't know. Sliders, the little hamburgers were popular back when sliders came out, but nowadays when I say sliders, I get hungry because I want a little hamburger there. But but yeah, so they're sliding in between I guess
Realities.
multiverses, sort of yeah, I guess this kind of played on multiverses
Right.
before multiverses were a big thing. So yeah, kind of came before its time. I was kind of reading where multiverses kind of came from, and I think I guess the first big appearance of multiverses was Elric, Michael Moorcock's albino soul stealing sword character Elric. He's big into multiverses, and I read some of his books couple years ago and really enjoyed those. But yeah, the whole thing with the multiverses has kind of been around because that character's from the 60s and 70s. But yeah, this one, so they're sliding in between. He yeah, he meets kind of a future self or a self that had already progressed a little further, like you were saying. And he's kind of explaining how things are because he shows up because when he slid his cooler version of himself kind of slid as well into his universe and kind of screwed around with it. Kind of got him fired and did a few things, pissed off his professor. But I guess it also kissed the his coworker, and then he came back and is kind of realizing what kind of mess that guy left his life in, and he explains what's going on to the professor and his coworker, and they decide to go sliding, and unfortunately they slide a little bit too much and include Rembrandt and his car into kind of ice age apocalypse kind of kind of world,
Right.
and things get kind of crazier from there, but and they think they slide back towards the end, but it's not quite the real reality. So yeah, by the end of the first episode, you kind of basically understand that these characters are going to be traveling, that they're not going to get home anytime soon.
Right.
And you understand the dynamics. You got Quentin, who's the hero of the story. He doesn't quite know what's going on, but we're on the ride for him. The professor provides the more academic aspect of it. Things need to be explained for exposition. He's going to be there to do that. The coworker girl is there as a potential love interest, but also as support for the
Funky
characters.
sidekick. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Spunky, yeah, and then Rembrandt's there, mainly for the first couple of episodes as the comedic aspect of it. The whoa, what's going on? Hey, what? The kind of surprise expression, and he sort of he seemed way. I'm sure he worked really well in the '90s, but this point he's an extremely cliched, stereotypical kind of character, and
Right.
um, I'm sure his character. You start to see it by the third episode that they realize that he can't just be that kind of slapstick surprise kind of
Oh.
yeah, like the
Right.
comedic aspect. They got to develop his character and make him into a human being. But yeah, the initial introduction to him is not um is not as well received probably as it once was. Also, the maybe it develops more, but the sort of love interest between Quentin and the female character, I forget her name. There's not a whole lot of chemistry between them
No.
as characters.
It's all.
I didn't buy the romance. By the second episode, they really try to play up the tension, the love yearning between between them at that point, and it hasn't been earned yet,
No,
or at least
no.
you don't feel it feel it yet.
Yeah, I'd say probably this realistically, the first 3 episodes for this particular show, it starts out
Mhm,
very, very weak. Like as far
mhm,
as like the thing, I think the only thing that really powers it through it are like where you do get glimpses, flashes of like where their chemistry does work. Not necessarily with all
mhm.
the particular characters you see right off the bat, but over
Mhm,
time, they did hit their stride. But it is probably fairly
mhm,
pretty. I think this is probably one of the weaker weighted one shows that we've watched for the binge worthy that probably tips out the average person to say no, I don't want to complete this binge watch. But if you are a nerd, then you are already part of our main audience, and you would know sometimes there's a redeeming quality or value out of here, or just something you like about the characters.
mhm.
They're completely different characters by the time you get to episode 5 and 6, and so
Mhm.
etc. But
Yeah.
again, this goes into it. So I do echo your criticism. It's valid, absolutely valid. It's a lot to take in for what they're attempting to get you to watch, and it only gets
Yeah.
zanier. Thankfully, though, some of the concepts are the parallel worlds and the sliding are a little bit more crystal clear and a little bit more
Mhm,
compelling, and eventually they get to the point to like where they're not afraid to use that as a character, where the
mhm,
location, the time, the they don't really time travel. They're sliding between different Earths, just not to the
mhm.
original one. So there could
Right.
be things could be a little bit off, like where they did the one where it's red, the color, the instead of a red light that means stop, that means go, and the one, kind of like
Yeah. Right.
as an example, as like a very crystal clear kind of like minor one, and then they'll do another one
Mhm,
where it'll be what happened if America had lost the Revolutionary War, which is
mhm.
even more, you get into that to like where that becomes the character, and it gets a lot more fun, a lot more
Yeah.
exciting, and you get more
Yeah.
invested in these characters. But for the most part,
Yeah.
it takes it's very clunky. It's kind of like, okay, well, how are the, it gets a little bit of a accident kind of, nature thing, but
Yeah.
and the lore behind them, they spend anywhere from a day to they have a day to 2 days, up to 2 days, maybe three per world,
Yeah.
like where they
Right.
they go off again, and then they get
Mhm.
used to this thing.
A cycle. Yeah.
Right, but it's just very
Yeah.
interesting, and
Yeah. They don't. It's maybe built in on purpose, but I didn't get a real sense of the mechanics of the whole thing. Like they kind of play really loose and fast with the sci-fi,
they
the science of the sci-fi. But
they very rarely do touch on the technicalities of
mhm,
how it works. An Einstein Rosen bridge, which is something that they say throughout the show. It's a wormhole, from it takes them from here to there, that tunnels between worlds or whatever. So like that. But again, they don't talk about the technology. They don't talk about how it works. They just very look.
yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
wow. A little bit later on, the special effects get a little bit better, but so, like they're kind of rough. They're from the '90s. Yeah, they're you're not hiding that.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of have to forgive. Yeah, they didn't have the insane budgets of TV shows as we do nowadays. So yeah, and they rebooted the series, I'm sure it would be much more flashier. Yeah, one of the things I wanted more of was, of course, Schrodenberg, the cat. He kind of disappears
Oh
after
yeah, yeah,
the pilot,
right.
but kind of wish he was in it a little bit more. But I know yeah, the what like I said, I'll circle back and sound like a broken record, but the thing that supports the show is the characters, obviously, and the stories. And obviously you don't have full characters. The first show that we watched was League of Gentlemen, and the that show had the benefit of those guys doing these characters on stage for years before
Oh,
they actually did the TV
yeah,
series.
yeah, yeah.
So they knew the characters in and out, and they knew the weaknesses, the strengths of the characters. So they were already fully formed by the time we got to see them on the screen. Obviously not a lot of shows have the benefit of that. So yeah, the first season, especially a show like this, when you get this ensemble cast together, you really don't know, because you try to pair up a group of actors that are going to be good together, but you don't know their strengths and weaknesses until you really kind of put them through the paces of the stories and see how the characters interact and grow. So yeah, you don't really get them fully formed within the first few episodes. So like you said, you really have to kind of base the show on the stories and the potential of the characters when it first starts off, and you really have to. One of the things that I think both you and I hate is when someone tells us to watch a show. Oh, but you kind of have to you struggle through the first season.
Mm.
It doesn't get good till the second season, and you really don't start really loving it until the third. Uh, you go, I have to suffer through 40 episodes before I get to the good stuff. No, no, ain't nobody got time for that. But yeah, so you really have to have potential to start with. Yeah, you you can't really screw around
Mm-hmm.
for especially with these shows which had 20 episode seasons. You really kind of have to kind of lock in, and you do see the potential. I did see, even though it's a galaxy away from Star Trek, you do get those ideas. You understand that the setup within the first three episodes. You go, okay, you're going to be jumping from world to world. They're going to be unique. They're going to have echoes of the old universes, the base universe. So you're going to see maybe some of the reoccurring characters, because they're pretty much jumping within that same location of where they originally start at,
Sure.
but it's in different universes.
Right.
Um and so you got, like, okay, yeah, this world, the meteor's coming, it's going to crash into it and kill off the world. So you have to kind of understand, you go through that scenario, and then you go to another scenario, and there's it's really open to different elements. It's almost like you're 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 making a different dish every week. You throw a little bit of this, a little bit of spice, and a little bit of this into it, and shake it up and see what you get. And but yeah, so you're relying on the setup of the story, but also how that story plays out. And it really kind of hinges on that, and then you get a little bit of a character development from episode to episode. Very episodic. So you really have to enjoy those type of shows where you have each episode, it's kind of built up to, especially for reruns, where you never know when your audience is going to watch the show. So it's going to have to be kind of digestible for someone watching each episode for the first time. So you kind of have to have that little intro that kind of explains the show. But then you kind of have to have your kind of basic characters, to where you kind of have to pick up. So you can't have this intricate storyline for each of the characters. It's sort of have to have kind of hit a reset with each episode. Although there is that overarching, I'm sure, story that gets played out over the episodes. But yeah, you do get to see the potential of the show within the first three episodes.
Right.
You kind of understand the kind of basic premise of the show, and from there you do get to understand whether or not you want to follow the show. You know the what the basic makeup of it is. I'm sure there's some surprises and developments that happen, further along. But you kind of get the basic idea. So if you like those core characters, um, kind of like what they're doing with it, you understand whether or not you want to stick with it. And I did enjoy the characters. I like the concept of the show. And yeah, I was only since they broke up the pilot into 2 episodes, I kind of in my mind thought of those as 2 episodes, and then the second episode proper. I was just going to watch those three because of a time crunch, but we had a skip neck last week, so I watched an additional
Oh,
episode
right on.
to get a little bit more of an idea of what it's like. And it's one of those comfort shows where it doesn't test you too much. You can kind of just sit back and kind of veg out. You kind of know these characters, so
Right.
you don't have to. There's not a lot of muscle mass that you're using for it. But yeah, it's one of those you can sit back, have a snack, and just kind of watch a couple episodes. And maybe you're planning on watching a couple of them, but you end up watching three. It's one of those shows that are kind of set up for binge worthy. It's like, I only going to catch one episode, but then you start watching the episode after, you go, oh, this
Right.
is kind of an interesting idea. Let's see how this plays. I'll watch a little bit more of it and see what's going on with it, and then stop. And then you end up watching the rest of the episode. It's one of those series, if you catch my drift.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was good. And also of note, Tracy Tormé and Robert K. Weiss created the show, or were writers on the show, and they
I
came
think
up
I
with.
saw John Landis as a producer, wasn't he?
Sounds right, sounds right. But I was just gonna say Tracy Tormé
Mhm.
is the son of the legendary jazz musician Eddie
Oh,
Tormé, which
gotcha.
kind of gives you an idea of the pedigree that they're the high concept science fiction, which is something that you don't quite see every day. But um, this one, it was also kind of like one of those shows too that also didn't have like 22 seasons or 22 episodes of shows. It actually is pretty a little bit more modern. With 9 and then I think 13. That's why I was going through
Oh,
the
okay, yeah,
years.
that's right. I think I saw. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
so
kind of
so
broke
they're
it
they're
up.
not super long either. For American, it's kind of an unusual thing. You can kind of tell they were committed to it, but they didn't quite know how committed they wanted to be to it. There's a little bit that goes on later on in the lore of the show, and then kind
Mhm.
of some stepping away from the main people there.
Yeah.
But fun fact, Jerry O'Connell, he was he went in for the same day for the other show in the 90s, which was I was just reading that. I think it was right there. He was on his way to do the he tried out for this show, and then they begged him to try out for this show, and he also did. God bless America, I can't.
While you're looking at that, John Landis was one of the executive producers. Also, David Peckinpah, which is the nephew of Sam Peckinpah. So yeah, there's a lot of pedigree
Yep.
to the show. Also, Mark Mothersbaugh, I noticed, was one of the composers. He's one of the members of Devo, and he does a lot of soundtracks. He also did a lot of Wes Anderson's soundtracks as well as the composer. So a lot of cool people that are tied to the series.
Right. I can't think of what he was doing, but I'll just go to his Jerry O'Connell. It was the oh, good grief. Uh,
But Jerry O'Connor, O'Connell, I have seen him recently. He he's actually a huge Big Brother fan, and I'm a bit of a Big Brother fan as well. So, but he shows up time to time on the Big Brother show to give his opinion on what's going on and how the players are playing, and so but yeah, I haven't seen him recently in anything like actor wise. I don't know if he's kind of taken a backseat to acting. And maybe
I think they
yeah, I'm
just
sure he's made his money.
yeah, they
So,
kind of come and go here. I can't find the original one, but it was a party of five is that's what I was looking for. But good God, I could he really wanted to go after party of five. Now he didn't really want to do the sliders, but he got he became a regular. So
well, it's probably good that he got on Sliders because one of the cool things about sci-fi, horror, and fantasy shows and movies is you have that built-in audience of fans that stick with you from year after year. Like you said, Josh, as you know, that was the 2000s. Much later after Sliders has been off the air, he was recommending it to you, and you revisited it. It's one of those shows that people will go back to find. Whereas like Party of Five, who watches that now? It's sort of like a bygone show. How many fans are currently still actively engaged with Party of Five, whereas Sliders is probably still on the minds of a lot of people. A lot of people may be watching this right now because they're a fan of the show. So yeah, if you are, give us a comment, give us your history with the show, and maybe give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. But yeah, it's you got that baked in fan base, and then I mean, there's a second career in going from
yeah,
convention to convention to meet these fans, and they're like overjoyed to see you and get something signed. I know there's a whole business of that now, which I say business, but like I said, it's the love of meeting these people and the love of these people meeting the fans. It's kind of a maybe there's a darker side to the conventions that I'm not aware of, but it just seems like a kind of a celebration of fandom. And you don't get that with just regular show like Party of Five. There's like I said, there's not like any Party of Five conventions happening. I don't think. I know I'm kind of dragging Party of Five through the mud, but sorry for those fans out there that may be watching.
no, I think it's fair. I think it's fair. There's just just it has to really be hit the zeitgeist for it to be last if it's a show like Party of Five or be,
Mhm.
Dawson's Creek or blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
It's gotta
yeah.
you gotta hit
There's
Seinfeld. You
yeah.
gotta hit Seinfeld hits
Uh,
and runs
or
and same for
yeah, or
Friends.
Friends.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
like Friends is like a huge one with people.
right. And to be fair, Sliders is probably a little bit more well known probably than and more on the on the bubble or it comes up a little bit more often than probably Party of Five does. But I will say this: um, if you like sci-fi, if you like the '90s, if you have that kind of nostalgia, if you too, will see the '90s also from the time from the perspective of like what life looked like back then for technology. Not quite
Hmm.
terminally connected online like we are today, but I will say,
Yeah, there's a huge love and
yeah,
mystique about the '80s, which well deserved, but there's something as we get further and further away from the '90s and the 2000s. There's a love, there's like a deep seated love for those decades for me as
right.
well. For those, so yeah, when I always kind of smile when I see a show from the '90s, and it's like got that branded feel, that that video quality, film quality to it that just screams nostalgia now, which obviously you didn't get at the time, but definitely is there. Yeah, and there's um I won't get into it. We'll probably cover another show that I'll be able to go on about the this, but yeah, it's a fun one. I don't know if I'll stick with it to go through all of the episodes and seasons, but yeah, I wouldn't be adverse to turning on another episode or two and kind of like I said, you get a quiet moment where you don't really want to watch anything with a lot of meat on it. Like a serious A24 movie, but you just kind of want to throw something on to watch while you think about your day. It's definitely there. Or if you're working on something and that doesn't need your complete attention, and you want to throw a show on off to the side. I think a lot of people do that. They'll throw on a comfort show, or just a show that you don't have to have all of your attention on. You can throw that on the your second monitor and kind of watch. That is this show's probably, and then sometimes you'll stop working on your work and start watching the show more. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And it's kind of built into it because obviously when you're going from episode to episode, you're not going to have a banger ever episode. The concept or world may not be as cool as the next one, so you may not have to focus on that one as much. But yeah, then you get to a banger episode, oh yeah, I gotta really focus in on the show. But it's sort of built in to be a show like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I was just gonna say before we get going here, we are the FirstLastNerdom.com home
Mhm.
base, as well as on YouTube, and they're in. And this has been the binge. I think this one we'll call this one easily. Probably, like I said, the weakest yes. In my recommendation, there's a little bit more. This one has a little bit more pre-qualifiers than a fired up yes. Even though I love this one, I have to yield to reality. But it's one of those things that, like I said, if it touches your hits your thing, you're probably going to be more likely to want to go back and watch it X Files. But X Files, to be honest, too, also suffers from the same
Oh
thing,
yeah,
depending
yeah, it's
upon
episodic. Yeah.
what where you fell off of that show. But in all the
Yeah.
same, we do watch these things with a lot of love, and it doesn't
Hmm.
hurt to go check it out. But
Yep.
I think that's
Yep.
it.
Yeah, and that's yeah, this is our binge worthy show. We also do a weekly podcast where we focus on mainly movies.
Right.
Sometimes we'll cover comic books there, but yeah, check us out there. We do that. We've been doing that live, and we'll probably do it live for the foreseeable future. So you can catch us live on those. Yeah, but we've been doing this binge worthy. We're gonna see how many legs this thing has, because we had initially did it, was going to do it for a month. The original concept that I threw at Mike was, oh, we'll do like four episodes, four different TV shows, and we'll pick a winner and follow that show to the end, maybe. But yeah, we decided we kind of we like the concept of covering like different shows because we have so many different shows we might want to talk about. So we've kind of broke it and and kind of fixed it again, and we're kind of doing a weekly shows about different shows. Hopefully you're enjoying it. With the viewership on it has been pretty good. A lot of these extra shows that we've been doing didn't really hit with the audience. We've hit, even though we normally get low numbers, we were getting really low numbers on those. But this binge worthy series has been doing pretty good. If you have a show, because we've been kind of approaching this of, we'll bring a show to the table, and that's either one that we like, or I like, or Mike likes, that the other maybe not be exposed to. But and kind of doing it that way. However, the audience, if you have a show that you really want us to talk about that maybe we're not aware of, definitely give us a recommendation. We won't hate that. But yeah, we'll keep doing this until we would either me and Mike run out of shows we want to cover, or it becomes stale and we just want to move on to something else.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I've been Mike.
And I'm Tom, and we'll slide on out of here.